Everybody, and welcome to our webinar this evening, which is going to be very interesting. But before we start our program, I would like us all to bow our heads in prayer and join me with the Gayatri Mantra. Om. 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 Om Bhurbhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurbhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurbhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste and welcome to our Back to the Vedas lecture this evening. Our keynote speaker for this evening is Advocate Purnima Devi Tilakdari from Mauritius, and it is my singular pleasure to introduce her to you this evening before she delivers her talk. Advocate Purnima Tilakdari was admitted to the bar after completing illustrious achievements during her primary, secondary, and tertiary years of education. She has participated in every facet of the legal field, gaining much experience, which catapulted her to various notable positions, not only in Mauritius, but in the UK, US, and globally. One of these is as resident legal advisor, Legal and Constitutional Affairs Division of the Commonwealth Secretariat, London in the UK. Her work involves arbitration as well as serving on the African continent. And the list goes on, ladies and gentlemen. I have gone through her CV, which she has sent to us, and which is an illustrious 9 pages of all her achievements. We are proud to have Advocate Poonam Tilakdari with us this evening. And it gives me great pleasure now to invite Advocate Poonam Tilakdari to enlighten us this evening on the topic Swami Dayanand and the liberation of women. Poonamji.
Sorry, she's on now, so
I think there was a problem.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry, I must have missed earlier on.
You have the floor now, Poonamji.
Thank you, thank you. Namaste, everybody. And I thank you all, and especially South Africa Arya Samaj, for having called upon me and chosen me to speak on the topic today in the context of the 200th birth anniversary celebration of Maharishi Dayanand. The topic being the liberation of women And as we all know, where women were, what were the value of women, girls, and daughters before Swamiji brought, I would use the word liberation. Yes, it's being used, liberation. And we women, we have been liberated from many and several ills that were surrounding women, girls, and daughters. In India, we all know that in those days, girls were not allowed to go to study. Education was not as of right. And even it was the same in Mauritius. As well as in those days, when girls would grow up, they would get married. Then, should anything happen to the husband, our counterpart women who were the wives of those who passed away, their husbands who passed away, they had to be killed, or rather give up their life in the same pyre as their husband. And that was known as the Sati Pratha in those days. So we would see that women from birth till the end of their life were being subjected to quite a lot of injustices. And it is thanks to Swamiji that many of those injustices have been removed gradually, I would say. I would, at the moment, I was doing my research, I came across Manusmriti, where the status of woman has been described in its chapter 10, verse 3. And at times it's a bit difficult to adjust today to know that this is what has been written in Manusmriti. And one would see that the status of women was in those days left to near nobody, and it depended highly on the male gender. In the verse 3 and chapter 10 of Manusmriti, it has been written that day and night a woman must be kept in dependence, not independence, rather kept in dependence by the mates of their families, and they must be kept under one's control. Her father protects her in childhood, her husband protects her in youth, and her sons protect her in her old age. And from this, we gather a woman is never fit for independence. These are the words that I read from Manusmriti. And those sentences which I came across left me pondering what would have been our situation today if there would not have been any change. And I would take it from there. We all know the fight of Swamiji Maharishi, who took us out to be educated, who made us equal to our male counterparts. And we have been treated as being equal. In Mauritius, I would say that our laws, we were governed by the civil code in those days when the French colonized our country. And in the civil code, the woman was treated as belonging in the house. That was exactly the way the woman was treated. She had no capacity to contract an agreement. She was equivalent to a minor child. Therefore, just like a child could not decide for oneself, so was the woman, irrespective of whether she was married or had reached the age of 18. As far as opening a bank account was concerned, the woman could not open a bank account until and except her husband would give the permission and a written consent that he allowed the wife to open a bank account. These have changed. Obviously, today is different. However, these were a few how women were recognized under our law. Why do I take the legal aspect? Is because it's through the legal aspects that one gets some identity, that one gets some power. We do get our status otherwise in the house. However, most of the time, when we do not get any power legally, then of course this is where women become vulnerable. And things have changed today. As I was saying earlier, today women can enter a contract. They can also choose their partners. They can open a bank account. They can go to work. They are not obliged to get any permission from their husbands. But we all know customary and value-based, we are all tied together. And we try to be, I would put it like, honorable. Because if a woman or a girl doesn't listen to the parents or to the husband, then we are not always honored. So things have changed today, and we have moved a long way. I must say that the fight taken by the women also in international level, starting from the first New Zealand First Nation to allow vote, which was in 1883. Then in 1908 in New York, women started to have this first strike in the garment factory because they were not having equal pay. Then in 1909, in America, the first National Women's Day was celebrated on the 28th of February. And in 1910, there was the first Women's Day, which was organized by women in Copenhagen to fight against discrimination. And all in all, led us to the 1975, 8th of March, declaring the first International Women's Day. The date is, the year is very important. It's 1975. And we all know Maharishi Ji wrote the Satyar Prakash, set up the Arya Samaj, 1875. How advanced is nearly 100 years later that the International Women's Day has taken its day to be recognized by the United Nations. We also know that it was always there that where women are honored, the deities are pleased, but where they are dishonored, all religious rites becomes useless. However, very often we've seen that dharma has been utilized one way or the other. And most of the time, women have been the victims of those. Swamiji started 1903, 1904, we know we had this Arya Putri Pathshala. In 1906, we had Lala Devrajji and Lala Munshi Ramji, who opened a boarding house for girls, the Kanya Ashram. And in 1913, they had roughly around 105 residents in Punjab, Pune. In 1906, a Vidhwa Bhavan was opened, and they also started to give scholarships to girls in the Mianwali district, and this was founded by Lala Sukhdev. In 1911, Mrs. Ram Bhaj formed a new society, the Stri Mahamandal, to give education to married illiterate women. In 1921, the Arya Girls Primary School was set up. In 1927, Hansraj Mahila Mahavidyalaya was opened in Lahore. At the same time, they had the college in DAV College in Jalandhar and in Amritsar. In 1942, a girls' high school again was opened. And in 1944, Banwari Lal Vedic Middle Kenya Patshala in Abohar. These are a few dates and years which I have taken just to show that how the changes happen for women in India in those days. In Mauritius, it didn't happen as early as in 1940s. In 1968, let's say not 68, but let's put it like 1960, I don't have the exact year, when we were fighting for our independence, the right to vote was given to those who had money. And then when we were discussing with London, they decided to widen the scope of people who are able to vote. And that was if the person would be eligible to sign his or her name. And this is how women got the right to vote in Mauritius, by signing your name. And we were not part of a jury trial. Women were not allowed. It was in 1982, 1985 that the change was brought in, that a woman could become a member of the jury. And so the changes took time in Mauritius. As we see today, if we are to see where inequalities still exist towards women in Mauritius, and maybe I would take it even around the world, because from my statistics, I have read that every 11 minutes, a woman is killed by the partner or a family member. So every 11 minutes, we are losing one of our counterpeers. And in UK, an organization tried to find out statistically that one woman was killed every 3 days in the UK. These statistics look quite alarming. They do look quite alarming. And how shall I take those changes that happened towards the status of women, raising the status of women, taking us from the kitchen to an office, and giving us all the powers, status, and rights as well. And today, even on the side of being protected or being attacked or not being safe in the society in comparison to the male counterparts, where are we today? I would say that domestic violence were there in those years, is here today, and highly likely, but I hope not, I do hope that it would change and would reduce. Because women have always been given this notion of being the fairer part, the one who has is more vulnerable. This in itself instills in the mind of our male counterparts that we are easy to be taken for a ride, we are easy to be physically assaulted. We are easily harassed mentally, morally. And so this aspect of facing domestic violence is an element, is a fate against the women that I do not see it to disappear so soon. In spite of having very strong laws in our country, I still find that today, whenever there is a fight between the husband and the wife, it is the wife who has to leave with the kids. They leave the matrimonial home. They've got to go and seek refuge from a shelter or a place, or their parents. They've got to go back to their mother's house. And I pause here to just ask this question. Is that okay? Is that all right? And this is happening even for our women, our daughters who are working as professionals. And they still have the same fate. They end up not having anything of their own. And I would like to know how it is in South Africa. Probably here in Mauritius is because our property rights are different, maybe. And most of the time, the woman, the girl gets married and goes to reside at the husband's in-laws or husband's place. And although she might be contracting a loan, she might be financially independent, she might be helping in the construction of the house, the conjugal house. Whenever there's a problem, she's always told, you've got no place to stay here. You've got to move out. You can't live with us. So this is one aspect I would like to know how it is. And when we've seen Swamiji giving us all this right, are we still not facing some different sorts of, different type of inequality? That is one aspect I wanted to put before the platform today. The other aspect I would like to know how it is in respect of the gender equality. We've talked a lot about gender equality. We know there are boards, managing committees. We have places of a higher hierarchy. We know that our women counterparts are doing very well in their education, even at the workplace. But are there still this glass ceiling? I would say in Mauritius, yes. There are advancements being done. However, I would say that the mentality of accepting a woman, of taking a post as a presidency, be it for even an association or the Arya Samaj or even in a company, the male counterparts are still reluctant to allow this to happen. They do not really, it doesn't matter whether you are a professional or you are able to do the work, if not better. That element does not even come in today. I find the glass ceiling is still there. Let's say in politics, in Mauritius, if I were to take it for Mauritius, let's say, we have had Deputy Prime Minister today in the name of Mrs. Lachman. She is a Minister of Education, and we have had previously a speaker who was a woman, and we have had our president who was a woman. But most of the time, the only post that could be given to a woman would be the Ministry of Women and Children Protection, that would be the best post that could be given. We still haven't got lately, I would say, a woman as an attorney general or a minister of justice or a minister of finance. Not to say that we do not have women of those caliber, but even in the political thinking and party, this kind of post are not given to the women. I'm happy that our Chief Justice is today a woman, and she is the first Chief Justice, Lady Chief Justice in Mauritius. So this element of gender equality, although we are trying to bring it in our laws, it's not yet in our an act made in Mauritius. Yet this glass ceiling is still there. Women have taken, I mean, we've been taken out of the kitchen, we've become professional, but yet we still carry all the roles and responsibilities of the house. We still carry all the roles and responsibilities of motherhood. We still have to carry the roles and responsibilities of a good daughter-in-law. We still have to carry and take the responsibility of making the family united. If a family is not united, then it's definitely the woman in the house is not the right one. We still carry the blame. And so I would say that we've done a very big leap in our status, in our image, in how we feel, how we are seen. But there are certain basic factors that have remained the same and constant. I know there are many of our male brothers who have, and husbands who have taken up very close roles in helping their wives. But I would say that the majority of those household roles are still left upon the woman. And I would like to place this in the forum again, to know how it is in your part. This being said, I would come to the last bit of today's intervention, and which would make us think that yes, we are liberated. Yes, we are empowered. Yes, we are to be treated equal. Yes, we have made all those strides, and on professional level, we can take any of those challenges, and we can do whatever is asked. We are in all the fields, in all domains. We are yet to find out any place where we haven't seen women having joined in. But my question is, maybe it is not even a question, I don't know, but it has always bothered me this bit. We have been talking of not to be discriminated, to be treated equal, yet we are not equal. We are not born equal. And we are still fighting in Mauritius. Political parties are trying to say that women, although in population-wise, we are more than 52% of the population women, and we are still saying parties to say that you should bring at least 1/3 of women in as candidates in in any political campaign. Why 1/3? I don't know. I'm still far from it. But what I'm trying to ask today, and I will end here, is why should we have been, what was the reason of treating us or giving us more powers? And why in the first place were we discriminated against? Where did it come from? I always ask myself this. Why should it have ever happened? And even today, we are still talking of being empowered, and we still face the glass ceiling. So it is with these thoughts that I leave the my little expose today. Thank you.
Thank you, Poonamji, for a wonderful, wonderful presentation. What I've picked up from it is that I think we all have the same problems. We definitely have the same problems, yes. Although Swamiji has given us that freedom to be empowered, he's given us the freedom to be educated. I think what he hasn't done is he hasn't educated the men. That's the way I look at it. Because had he educated the men, we would not have been crying out for gender justice and social justice and things like that. So I'm saying that Swamiji has slipped up there, and I don't know who's going to agree with me, but I'm going to now open the floor to anyone who has any questions or who wants to make a comment. Please raise your hands. Vishnubai, you may come in. Vishnubai, thank you.
Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Pandita, I disagree with your statement with Swamiji giving women's right. The right for women was always there. It is it's an inherent part of the Vedas. And our presenter touched a little on it when she indicated where the discrimination between the sexes came from. Even the quote from Manu, from my perspective, is anti-Vedic, because Vedas propagate the equal treatment between the sexes. And therefore, I am wondering, because we are aware that so much additional things were added to Manusmriti, if that is one of those that still exist inside there and needs to be changed. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vishnubai. You've made a good observation there. Thank you so much. Anyone else?
RTG, namaste. This is Pandit Bharat here from New York.
Oh, namaste, Panditji. Namaste. Welcome.
Thank you. Again, Poonamji, brilliant research on your topic. And one of the verse you quoted from Manu, where you say that women should not allowed to be in what we call independent. And then in the Manusmriti itself has that verse, as we all know, Yatranarasya Pujante, where women are honored, the devatas reside. And as by Vishnu mentioned, it's kind of what do you call it? Contrary for Manu to say one thing that praises women, on the other hand, say something that that puts women down. So that's why we got to be very careful which edition of the Manusmriti we read. For example, I'm not sure which edition, but there's one by Dr. Surendra Kumar, this edition here of the Manusmriti, which Dr. Surendra cleared up all these what we call anti-Vedic verses, because as we know, later editions of the Manusmriti was interpolated. A lot of verses was added to suppress women and keep them second class. And RTG, as you mentioned, Maharishi Dayanand, is that he failed to educate the men. Is the men failed to educate themselves? For chapter 3 says, I forgot the verse. Oh gosh, 1 second. Let me see if I can remember. There's a verse which in chapter 3, the very first verse, which Maharishi Dayanand himself wrote. Vidya Vilasa Manaso Dhritashila Shikshaha. And the last line says, Dhanya Naraha. Dhanya Naraha. Fortunate is all Naraha. Naraha means not only men there, but all human beings whose minds are centered on the acquisition of knowledge. So Rishi Dayanand give us the impetus. Seek knowledge, but the men fail to seek what will advance the women folk and only advance themselves. Not all of them, the majority of them. And that's something has to be changed. But I'm glad though that this topic was chosen, because to create that awareness, whether we are in Mauritius, we're in South Africa, whether we're in New York or in Guyana, originally I'm from Guyana, and it's only within the past 30 to 35 years where men are educating themselves and understand that our women folk also needs to be, as we say, Matriman, Pitriman, Acharyavan, Purusha Vedaha, that all these people should be given maximum respect, not only Pitrivan or Acharyavan. The very first word as we hear there, Matriman, And so, but that's my little, so that's why it's important when we quote from Manu, we need to get a good edition of the Manusmriti, which is totally in line with the Ved. Because as I said, as by Vishnu mentioned, and as I read a little, there's a lot of editions of Manusmriti which has hundreds of verses suppressing women, and that was, as we all know, was added later on by the men owned press in India, who were very rich, and all in an effort to suppress women. Thank you.
Thank you, Panditji. Thank you very much. I see we've got quite a few hands up. Pandit Kiran, you had your hands up and I see you've disappeared. Do you still want to come on?
Namaste, Aarti. Namaste, Aarti. Yeah.
Namaste.
Sorry for coming in a bit late. I was listening to Venji, and the input that she's given us is very interesting and exciting. Because, as you know, in South Africa, we are advocating and we are working towards, and after 94, towards a new constitution and equality in terms of women's rights. But when you look at the Indian diaspora over the years and centuries, with the invasions that took place, and especially with the invasion of the so-called Mohammedan or Islamic invasions that took place, women were always treated as second-class citizens, and that is how the Parda system and all of that was introduced into society. And the exploitation of women within the four walls of their homes, it has taken place, and it's for years. And so society has got so used to this whole system. And even in our own Varna system, when you look at how when they talk about the Brahmanical structure, then you look at the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras. I mean, even there too, there is a structure of society which is also very discriminatory. But yet, in the Vedic times, there was also very great scholars like Maitreya, Gargi, and various other scholars. So I think it is the way society was structured in the different periods, and over a period of time, the matriarchal society that was there eventually gave into a patriarchal society where men exploited and took control, and the Brahmins were responsible for women being exploited in our society. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiran Bhai. Thank
maybe
you.
we can get more comment from
Anand?
the speaker. Thanks.
I have Anand's hand up. Anand, you may come in.
Thank you, Artiben. I'm Anand Sharma from California. First of all, congratulations for Namaste. First of all, congratulations for wonderful presentation. And the comments made by Bharatji and others are, I think, putting the things in right perspective. What I want to add to the question where it originated, we find that there are more than 20% of the Rishikas of our Ved mantras. So at intellectual plane, they were never second. They had equal, or if they enjoy the status of a Rishika, I think that's the highest possible intellectual platform that can be thought of. Rishi Dayanand has said that women after reading becomes Samragni, the queen, the empress, the emperor and empress, the lady emperor or what you call the queen, Samragni. So that means this is not equal, but it is higher platform than the men. There have been many reasons why this is the current state of affairs, and I think it has been nicely brought out in the context of Mauritius. But even in other countries, even in US, equality is still, I think, at a conceptual level, but not a very practical level. So the fault is perhaps we have not taken the words of Rishi Dayanand to its real sense, and the shortcoming is perhaps on our part or on the part of the Arya Samaj not to make it so global or so clear to the people at implementation level. Thank you.
Thank you, Anandji. Thank you very much. Karuna, you've got your hands up.
Thank you, Chair. I think, Poonamji, I want to pick up a few points you've made. Firstly, you raising that 100 years after Swami Dayanand opened up the spaces for women in society, the United Nations came up with things. But in 2025, it's going to be 50 years for the decade of women. And the reality is that globally, we've had a rollback on the whatever gains women had made globally. I think the first question, and thank you, Anand Bhai, for raising the point that, maybe we failed in the Arya Samaj. Was the Arya Samaj there? And where were the Arya Samaj organizations when they had Beijing, when the Pope actually went there and told people that this place of women is somewhere else, it's not out here. And that was the main rollback that we had. Now, you asked a question about South Africa, and because we were the last, so we have one of the best constitutions in the world. We have entrenched third generation rights in the constitution. We fought for 50% of women, particularly in the ruling party, to be represented, and we've achieved it. We basically fought when the first cabinet came about. There were only 2 ministers that Mandela put in, and the women had to go and lobby and say this is wrong. So the next lot of women ministers that got put were put there. President Thabo Mbeki unashamedly said he's putting women in position whether they have experience or not, because they will learn. And yes, a lot of them made mistakes. But, just to say from the political perspective, before we went to elections, democratic elections in South Africa, some of us met with Frelimo, SWAPO, women in Zimbabwe, women in Angola, And they told us in no uncertain terms, look, you can go with the men, but the men will really give you a problem along the way. And so I think we're learning very slowly that it's very difficult to put women's issues across in a man's world. And I think that's the question you were asking at the end. What can we do? And I think some of the realities we need to also look at. Women who go into power don't have compassion and empathy for other women. They bully other women. They get catty. And if I could use this word, they also bitchy, you know? And so women don't unite themselves. Yes. And so you're never going to overcome patriarchy. So it's a lot to say the men must learn, but it's not like men don't want to support women, but when women start fighting with each other, the men don't know what to do. Secondly, I think within the Arya Samaj, we have not mainstream gender. We're very happy to put women in positions, but women who get put into positions, and in many organizations this happens, and even politically it happens, it's women that men can control. If you're an independent woman who speaks her mind, men don't like you. And women also don't like you. So, you know, it's actually a societal thing that needs to be changed. And I'd like to end with this one point, that is that we constantly lump women with children. We don't seem, and you know, in Africa, if you're an African woman and you're not fertile and you choose not to have children, then you're barren and you're not a full woman. So it's quite an interesting perspective. And it leads me to the last point I want to make. And that is the bias in society is also about your choice of sexuality. And today in the modern world, the whole issue of the choice of sexuality and the freedom for sexuality is quite important. And so we've got to begin to look at gender as opposed to the issues of, you know, just women and whether women are respected and whether women are there. Now, one of the biggest things that occurs throughout the world is gender-based violence. And I think that's something the Arya Samaj needs to seriously consider as the 21st century issue that we can take Swami Dayanand's teachings to the world with. You know, there's a lot of merit in what he's been saying. When he said it in the 19th century, he was saying it to actually uplift the status of women. But now the status of women is uplifted and they're getting bashed. And they're the victims. And they must bear the brunt of everything. So I think, you know, that's something we need to think about and really begin to get the Arya Samaj focused on it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Karuna. Thank you very much. Poonamji, would you like to respond to any one of them?
I would start from the very last dear sister who spoke. And indeed, sisterhood is something that I believe it should be within the Arya Samaj to work upon. Because we see the one who breaks a house is another woman if there is a man having an extramarital affair. If there is a workplace, a woman is suffering from getting support, it would be another woman backbiting her lady colleague. And if it is a house break, having some problems in the family, it is one sister-in-law fighting with another sister-in-law, or a sister of a husband fighting with a wife. That is indeed a very true point. And as much as we would like to have and obtain the help of our male counterpart, I think it is high time for ourselves as women to ponder on it and ponder a lot about it. And especially in Hindu families, I would stress here on Hindu families, because the Muslims women, they all know their husbands will have 4 to 5 wives, because it's allowed as per their Quran and their to do 5 nikahs. They have a bigger tolerance I have seen, because in Mauritius we have a lot of Hindu women, Muslim women. We see the family growth in Muslim families in comparison to Hindu families' growth. And there is this element of inbuilt fight going on, having such a breakup of Hindu families in Mauritius in comparison to Muslim family breakup. And indeed, this point I would like to highlight that Arya Samaj should do a bigger work here indeed to bring this element of sisterhood and bringing this togetherness. Women, men willing to control women, women who would like to listen to them, which reminds me a bit, I don't want to make it personal. I have been in Arya Samaj Mauritius. I am a barrister of so many years, 25 years now. I am now currently the treasurer of Arya Samaj of Mauritius. I must say that when I join in, I have occupied all small level posts and I rose up to the 12th year and now I have become the treasurer. I ranked second in my election, in the previous election, second place, highly received votes. I don't want to make it personal, but I'm just saying that this is the scenario and I don't know if any other country would resound with this. And it's always, I had my male counter brothers, whom I like them very much. But after winning a first election, they've been made secretary of the Arya Samaj at the highest level. But it has not been the same for myself or my other women sisters who are in the managing committee. We are still thriving after so many years. In Mauritius, we have celebrated 100 years of Arya Samaj Sthapna. However, we are yet to see at the mother apex a woman to be a president. If in a male's Arya Samaj, there is a woman who takes the presidency, everyone would oppose. How can she take a presidency if it is a male Arya Samaj? So these kind of things are still there. And I think Arya Samaj has a lot more to do in educating ourselves. I wouldn't say man or women, but in educating ourselves. What we read in Manusmriti, whether it's rightly in the right version or the wrong version, I'm sorry, Bhaiji, I do not know whether I got a wrong version of the Manusmriti. But when we read from there, we see this is what has been actually happening to our women. This is how we've been treated. So somewhere it must have been there for us to have been treated in this way. And there was one element I wanted to also to agree with Dayanand, who says shortcomings on the Arya Samaj, and the fact that we still have caste. We have this caste system. It is such a discriminatory, and Arya Samaj not having been able to fight it. I ponder at times that if Swamiji rises up and he says, hey, what have you been able to do? Are we still having this caste in our society? And this is where women are still treated as the second class. So these are a bit of my thoughts. I wouldn't want to make a second expose, but indeed I've got very, very beautiful ideas and support from each and every of you. And I believe that we must be working together, and platforms like yours today is something that will help us to make more progress from where we are. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Poonam. Thank you so much for that. I just want to answer one question.
I know you're coming to a close, but you know, in New York here, our Arya Samaj, we've been one of the leading organizations here in New York, and October will be 40 years since we've been established, and within the past 15 years, we have had 3 women, or among the 3 women, but a young lady in her 30s who was our president for 2 years each, and we also have, you know, we always try to incorporate women in the executive body. Currently, one of our vice president is a lady, and which we're very happy. And so, with the balance, there's always a greater role, not a greater role, but a greater prospect for moving forward. So just sharing that a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Panditji. Thank you. Poonamji, I just want to say to you that Arya Samaj South Africa is very much involved now with ending gender-based violence. We are working as an interfaith organization with people of other faiths who have all come in to work together to end gender-based violence, and we are taking it forward quite fast. I actually represent Arya Samaj on that forum with two of our other panditas, and we're now ready to roll and to take it into the community. So, having said that, I think we should actually be talking to each other more often. We need to keep our communications open as far as the work that we're doing here, not only involving gender-based topics, but for all the Arya Samaj work that we're doing. We need to go out there and we need to really educate the whole community about the teachings of Swami Dayanand.
Indeed.
So I just want to say thank you very much for your presentation. It was absolutely beautiful. We've had very good response, and I like that everyone's being involved in participating and in asking and responding as well. It's been a real pleasure for us to have you, and we're looking forward to doing more work with you in future, and with Mauritius as well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to everybody. Sorry, Poonamji, sorry.
I was also saying thank you for having me, and thank you to everyone for sharing their very valuable thoughts and discussions. It's really been very insightful, and I think we must work as the whole world together indeed. Yeah.
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely. So before I conclude with Shanti Part, I want to just remind everyone our next webinar will be on the 17th of April. The topic is the formation of the Arya Samaj, and this will be delivered by Professor Ravi Prakash, who is the chair of the Dayanand Saraswati chair at the Dayanand Saraswati University. So we're looking forward to hearing from him as well. And the invitations will be going out to everybody, and we'd love you to come on and log on and to be a part of it. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. Can we all end with Shanti Path? Thank you. Om Yo Shantirantariksham Shanti Prithivi Shantirapah Shantir Oshadaya Shanti Vanaspatayah Shantir Vishwe Devah Shantir Brahma Shanti Sarvam Shanti Shantir Eva Shanti Sama Shantir Edi Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste and thank you. Namaste.